Yeah.
Welcome back to the Gridiron Expert, bringing you some of the best college football news, predictions, and analysis. And today, continuing our series on the brand new coaching hires going into 2020. And today we are heading back to the SEC to take a look at a program that was one of the first to fire their head coaches back in the 2019 season. And that, of course, is the Arkansas Razorbacks, who will be just one of 4 SEC teams to have a brand new head coach going into 2020, and one of 3 teams in the SEC West to have a brand new head coach. In Arkansas, we got to take a look at why they're in this position. They're in this position because of the absolute disaster that was the Chad Morris era. Chad Morris was fired less than 2 full seasons during his time in Fayetteville, and some will say that was too early. No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. If anything, it was too late. Chad Morris went 4-18 in 22 games with the Razorbacks. That includes 0-14 in SEC play. The Razorbacks have not won a conference game since the late 2017 season. His tenure also included horrible losses to Colorado State, North Texas, San Jose State, and Western Kentucky. That 45-19 loss ultimately being his demise that game, resulting in the firing of him just a few days later. So those games in particular were games that Arkansas was supposed to win, games that Arkansas paid those opponents to come play them, and ended up losing. Not only did they get a loss on their record, they lost millions of dollars in the process. Morris never was able to find an offense for a guy that was credited as being an offensive-minded coach, for being one of the greater offensive minds of college football after seeing his job as Clemson's offensive coordinator and how he made SMU somewhat relevant again. He could just never find it in Fayetteville, never could find himself a quarterback. The culture was horrible. The players did not want to be there. The players did not want to play for him. The players did not want to play for the team. And quite simply, he was in over his head. Chad Morris, way in over his head. So I wish you Auburn fans the best of luck. He's coming to you now, and he might just wreck your program just like he did with the Razorbacks. But good luck to him as offensive coordinator down on the Plains. So after the firing of Chad Morris, Arkansas had quite a bit of a head start on trying to find their brand new head coach. You fire him in November. There were still 2 games left remaining in the regular season. That gave Arkansas a jump start on all the other programs that were going to have coaching changes during the offseason. But it took them a while. It took them about a month to find their new guy. And I know Arkansas fans were sweating just a little bit because they wanted this big name. They wanted someone big to come in here to rejuvenate this fan base and know that maybe in year 1 or at least by year 2, we are going to be back to somewhat relevance in the SEC. And it may not have been the big hire that they wanted, but the Hogs did hire Sam Pittman on December 8th. And Pitman, already having ties to the Razorbacks, serving as their offensive line coach from 2013 to 2015, and as we all know, left Arkansas to go spend 4 years as the offensive line coach, and just most recently offensive line and assistant head coach at Georgia with Kirby Smart. And we have seen how well Georgia has done over these past few years under Kirby Smart, winning SEC East titles, being in contention for the college football playoff these past few seasons, and in those seasons having one of the better running games in the SEC and one of the better offensive lines as well. So Pitman doing a phenomenal job at Georgia, did a phenomenal job at Arkansas, where at one point in time he had the biggest offensive line in all of football, not just college, but the NFL as well. So they bring in Pitman, and fans are kind of questioning that decision a little bit, but I'm kind of here to tell you Arkansas fans that it might not be as bad as you think, if you even think that at all. Because you bring in Sam Pittman, who has no head coaching experience. I think that was one of the major reasons people were afraid, and many people were worried, is that this guy had no prior head coaching experience whatsoever at any level. However, he is one of the most respected coaches in the entire country. One of the most respected coaches in the entire country, and you don't hear that very often, especially coming from an offensive line coach. Maybe a coordinator, but not offensive line coach. A major reason why is because he is one heck of a recruiter. He is one of the better recruiters in all of college football. That's why he was so sought after by many staffs across the country to come just be on their staff, help them recruit. He did a great job of that at Georgia, did a great job of that at Arkansas in his first stint, and now he's done a great job doing that at Arkansas now as head coach. Keep in mind, guys, he was hired on December 8th. That's about a week or two out from the early signing period, and just about 2.5 months out from National Signing Day. In that very small span, he took an Arkansas program that had won 4 games combined in the past 2 years and was in the low 100s when it came to the recruiting rankings, and by the end of National Signing Day in February, had the Razorbacks for the 30th ranked recruiting class in the entire country. And that does not even include some of the transfers that he's brought in that we'll touch on here in a second. 30th ranked recruiting class in the country. Players want to play for Sam Pittman, and additionally, coaches want to coach with Sam Pittman. And if they don't, Sam Pittman uses his recruiting ability to bring those coaches over with him. He brought in a phenomenal hire at offensive coordinator, one of the brightest young minds on offense in Kendall Briles, who has thrived everywhere he has been as a coordinator in his very young career. And then he may have made an even better hire for defensive coordinator, bringing in Barry Odom, the former Missouri head coach. Pitman, knowing that having a guy on his staff that has had previous head coaching experience, that is a great defensive-minded coach, one of the more respected ones in college football as well, that could go and serve his staff a very long way. And he doesn't have the ego to say, I'm better than anybody else. He goes, yeah, I know I haven't been a head coach before, and I might need a little bit of help here. And he brings in Barry Odom, who has experience in the SEC, has experience as a defensive coordinator, has experience as a head coach, and a phenomenal addition to this Razorback staff. So Sam Pittman doing a lot of work early in his very young career as head coach of the Razorbacks. Now, granted, Chad Morris did the same thing. Chad Morris was known for being a recruiter, and he brought in some solid recruits himself. Brought in some decent coordinators, some thought. So it all remains to be seen how it plays out on the field. And that's what we're going to look at here as a 2020 outlook. What do you want to expect, or what should we expect from Arkansas in 2020? Like I said, a team that has lost, I believe, 19 straight SEC conference games. Hasn't won a conference game since 2017. A team that unfortunately loses a lot of starters on the defensive side of the ball. That includes their top tackler, that includes their sack leader, and that includes their leader in turnovers. And that's not good considering last year Arkansas allowed 36.8 points per game. Only 6 teams in the entire FBS allowed more. And that was Massachusetts, New Mexico State, UConn, Louisiana Monroe, Bowling Green, and New Mexico. One of those things is not like the other. One of those is a team in arguably the best conference in all of college football. The others are teams that are perennially horrible teams, rarely make bowl games, and usually find themselves in the cellar of their conferences. And that's obviously has been the case for Arkansas in recent years. So lose a lot of starters on defense, but they're going to make up for that lack of production and maybe some lack of production offensively with the transfers that Sam Pittman has brought in. Guys, it's been unbelievable what he has done on the recruiting trail, but utilizing the transfer portal as well. He's bringing in a 4-star linebacker and Levi Draper from Oklahoma. He's bringing in a 4-star defensive end and Xavier Kelly from Clemson. And arguably the biggest transfer that he landed was quarterback Philippe Franks from Florida. Right there, Arkansas might have finally found themselves a quarterback, something that they haven't had in the past 2 seasons when they were under Chad Morris. They're bringing in a quarterback that has starting experience in the SEC, and whether you liked him or not, Philippe Franks did have a pretty solid 2018 season under Dan Mullen, and then, of course, had a decent start to 2019 before going down with an injury. Then Kyle Trask, of course, stole the show. So Philippe Franks gives Arkansas a boost at the quarterback position. Keep in mind they still have KJ Jefferson. They bring back Rakeem Boyd, who surprised a lot of people by returning for one more year in Fayetteville. He was the SEC's 3rd leading rusher in 2019, which is saying a lot. after a 2-10 season. And then they have a very young core of wide receivers: Trey Knox, Traylon Burks, Mike Woods, guys that are going to be great weapons for Philippe Franks, assuming, of course, he does in fact get the starting job. So Arkansas, utilizing the transfer portal, taking the talent they already have. These wide receivers are good guys. Rakeem Boyd is phenomenal. The previous coaching staff just didn't know how to use them. Sam Pittman should be able to do that. So the transfer portals, the recruiting rankings, Arkansas might be way more competitive in 2020 than they have been the previous 2 years. Not to say they're going to win those games, but at least Hog fans won't have to turn off the TV so early this time. Some notable games that you do want to watch out for the Razorbacks. They have a very favorable schedule when it comes to their home slate. 7 home games on the schedule this season. That is not very often you see that. So only 5 games played away from home. One of those, of course, a neutral site game at Cowboy Stadium, AT&T Stadium, if you want to call it that, down in Jerry's World against Texas A&M. 7 home games, and right off the bat, they're going to have a very tough test. They play Nevada in the season opener, go on the road to take on Notre Dame in South Bend. So a historic matchup between the Fighting Irish and the Razorbacks, and one that is definitely going to give Hog fans kind of a taste of what that season is going to be like, what 2020 is going to be like, and how far this team has come, and if they're going to be able to compete. I don't expect them to beat Notre Dame as of right now, but if they can go up there and have a respectable showing and contend, then the outlook might not be too bad. They do host Alabama and LSU in back-to-back weeks, so very unfavorable there for the Razorbacks. They have to travel to Auburn to face off against their former coach in Chad Morris. And then out of the East, they draw Tennessee and Missouri. Tennessee coming to Fayetteville, the game against Missouri being played at Arrowhead Stadium in Kansas City. So the 2 teams they could have drawn out of the East could have been a lot worse. It could have been Georgia and Florida. Luckily, it was just Tennessee and Missouri. So what do we grade this hire of Sam Pittman, guys? What do we want to give Sam Pittman here? Once again, a guy that has no previous head coaching experience, but as we mentioned, is a very respected head coach, or a very respected coach, period, in the entire country. We give the Razorbacks hire a solid B-. A B- hire, and some might think that's very high, but I'll explain why here. Sam Pittman was not the hire that Arkansas fans wanted, plain and simple. They wanted a bigger name. They wanted a guy like Mike Leach. Some really wanted Mike Norvell, who went and took the Florida State job. Some were on the Lane train when they thought they had landed Lane Kiffin. Some thought they were going to go get someone bigger and better. But here's the thing that I will say about this. Pittman understands the state of Arkansas. He has loved the Razorbacks his entire life. This was his absolute dream job. He actually cares about this program and this state, and he understands the tradition and the pageantry and the culture and what Arkansas Razorbacks football should be. He's a very passionate coach, and that is something that Chad Morris was not, and that was something that Brett Bielema was not. Neither of those 2 coaches seemed like they wanted to be in Fayetteville. Neither of those 2 coaches understood Fayetteville and how Arkansas football was supposed to operate, understood the history of Arkansas football, because if you are a football junkie, you know that Arkansas has not been this bad this entire career, their entire history. They have been relevant at times. Sam Pittman understands that. So a B- grade. Arkansas might flirt with bowl eligibility in 2020. They might flirt with it. I'm not saying they're going to get there. Those predictions will come later. But they might flirt with bowl eligibility. And if they don't in year 1, they definitely will in year 2. Because I 100% believe that Sam Pittman is the right guy for this job. I 100% believe that in due time, bringing a guy in that understands the culture, bringing in a guy that wants to be here, bringing in a guy that knows how to recruit and recruits extremely well and is honest across the board is going to go a long, long ways. And we've seen that already with a couple of head coaches across college football right now, that just a little bit of passion and a little bit of understanding can go a long way when it comes to coaching a very successful football team. And I 100% agree that Sam Pittman can do that. So a B- higher for the Arkansas Razorbacks going into this 2020 season. Hopefully they can turn things around after an abysmal, really past 3 seasons. So guys, thank you so much for watching us here on YouTube. Make sure to like this video. And check out everything down in the description below. We've got some more exclusive college football content and videos coming your way, so you do not want to miss out on that. And once again, as always, thank you so much for watching. Please continue to like, comment, and subscribe. And we'll see you next time on The Gridiron Expert.